My dear, loyal brothers, an education minister raised the veil from his face and revealed absolute disbelief in another guise. He must have written that manifesto on some other prompting before receiving the defenses we last sent. I was not thinking of sending them to that department, but this has shown that it is both appropriate and necessary to do so with my brother's approval. For most likely a deputy so bigoted in atheism would not be indifferent towards the documents and confidential treatises sent to Ankara. He was suddenly hit on the head by the irrefutable defenses. It was excellent. God willing, it will give rise to a powerful movement in favor of the Risale-i Nur in that department too. My brothers, since some people are like that, it is a sort of suicide to submit to them. It is to regret Islam or even to shake off religion. For they are so bigoted in atheism that they are not content with people like us only submitting or pretending to submit. They tell us, abdicate your hearts and consciences and work for this world alone. In such a situation, the sole solution is to rely on dominical grace, trust in God in patience and fortitude, send 4 crates of copies of the Risale-i Nur to that center and pray that with their powerful truths they will be victorious. Our experience up to now has shown that it is of no benefit to avoid one another and be upset and to dissociate oneself from the Risale-i Nur and submit to them and even join them. Don't feel anxious in any way. That deputy's blustering alarm shows his weakness and fear. He is compelled not to attack, but to defend himself. My dear, loyal brothers, Samway told me that one of our brothers from Homa, a student called Ali, died around the same time as Hafiz Ali. Mehmed Ali, one of heroes of Homa, also wrote and told me. So, in many of my prayers, I have made that Ali a companion to the great martyr Ali. Recently, a lady who is connected with us dreamed that 3 of our brothers had died. It may be interpreted like this: 2 Alis and Mustafa, who in prison wanted to become a follower of the Risale-i Nur and was hanged, went to the hereafter in place of all of us and were sacrificed for our well-being. In his name be he glorified. My dear, loyal, unshakable brothers who know the true nature and meaning of reliance on God. Although for 20 years I have felt no curiosity to either read or ask about any newspaper, with much regret I today saw, only for the sake of some of our weak brothers, a newspaper article. I understood from it that cowardly and openly a number of important movements are playing false parts. Since we appear in the public eye, it is supposed we are connected with those movements. God willing, the 4 boxes of powerful, irrefutable treatises and notebooks of decisive defenses will produce good results for both us and belief and the Qur'an and Islam. We have not meddled in their worlds, and they have in no way established that we are going to meddle. Ankara was compelled to request the whole Risale-i Nur in order to scrutinize it. Since this is the fact, and since up to now in the service of the Risale-i Nur we have witnessed the manifestation of dominical grace to an undeniable degree, we have all experienced this, particular and universal, and since many of the movements of politics and the world are mastering forces against each other, and since we can do nothing except be content with the divine decree and submit to divine determining, and receive the vast and sacred consolation arising from the service of belief and the Qur'an and the Risale-i Nur, certainly what falls to us before anything else is not be alert and not to despair and strengthen one another's moral and not to be frightened, and to meet this calamity trusting in God, and recognize to be molehills the mountains which the inane, clamorous journalists who make mountains out of molehills, and to give them no importance. The life of this world is without value, especially at this time, and honor these conditions. Whatever happens to one should meet it contentedly. In His name be He glorified. My dear, loyal brothers, 2 or 3 of my brothers have found a good way of consoling themselves. They say this: some of our new brothers in this prison are enduring patiently 1 or 2 or perhaps 10 years of this calamity because of 1 or 2 hours illicit activity. Some of them even offer thanks, saying that they have been saved from other sins. They say, why should we complain about 6 or 7 months of beneficial hardship, seeing that we are employed in the most licit activity and are serving belief through the Risale-i Nur? I congratulate them. Yes, it is a cause of pride and thanks to suffer difficulties for 5 or 10 months due to having performed for 5 or 10 years an enjoyable, pleasant, beneficial, sacred service and elevated worship and reflection with the intention of saving both one's own belief and that of others. In a hadith, it says, for one person to come to believe through you is better for you than a plainful of red sheep and goats. You should think, therefore, of all the people here in the court and in Ankara whose belief has been saved and will be saved from ghastly doubts through your writings and your service, and offer thanks in patience and with resignation. If the Republican People's Party, which governs in Ankara, obstinately opposes the powerful parts of the Risale-i Nur which go there and does not attempt to protect it with the intention of being conciliatory, the most comfortable place for us will be prison. It would indicate that the atheists have combined communism and atheism and that the government is obliged to heed them. If that were the case, the Risale-i Nur would draw back and health and calamities, material and immaterial, would begin their onslaught. In His name be He glorified. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. O assembly of jinns and men, came there not unto you messengers from among you? Although these verses state that prophets were sent from the jinns, the following is Ustad's answer to a question aimed at solving this difficulty. My dear brothers, truly this question of yours holds much importance, but since the Risale-i Nur's chief function is saving mankind from misguidance and absolute disbelief, it allots no place to matters of this sort and does not discuss them. The leading figures of the first generations of Islam did not discuss them much. For such unseen, invisible matters are open to exploitation. Fraudulent persons may exploit them for their own ends, just as ritualists nowadays perform their charlatanry, calling up spirits. It should not be much discussed, therefore, since such people exploit it to harm religion. Also, no prophets have been sent from the jinns after the seal of the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace. Also, the Risale-i Nur has tried to prove the existence of jinns and spirit beings with incontrovertible proofs in order to refute the ideas of materialism which plagues humanity at this time. It has put the matter in third place and has left detailed discussion of it to others. God willing, a student of the Risale-i Nur may expound Surah Al-Rahman in the future and solve the question. In His name be He glorified. My dear, loyal brothers, who say, when afflicted by calamity, to God do we belong, and to Him is our return. The deaths of Hafiz Ali, Hafiz Mehmet, and Mehmet Zühtü were truly a great loss not only for us, but for Sparta and even for this country and the Islamic world. But up to now, as a manifestation of divine grace, whenever a Risale-i Nur student has been lost, 2 or 3 have immediately appeared who follow the same system. I have powerful hopes, therefore, that serious students will emerge who will carry out those students' duties in another form. Anyway, those three blessed people performed 100 years' worth of duties, serving the cause of belief in a short period. May the most merciful of the merciful grant them mercy to the number of the letters of the Risale-i Nur that they wrote, published, and read. Amin. Offer my condolences to Hafiz Mehmet's relations and his blessed village for me. I have made him a companion to Hafiz Ali and Mehmet Zühdü, and have included the names of the three of them among the names of those of my masters who were spiritual poets. And I have made Hafiz Akif the companion of Asim and Lütfi. In his name be he glorified. My dear, loyal brothers, in accordance with an inner meaning of good lies in what God chooses, it is good this matter of ours has been delayed. For love of that dreadful dead man was being inculcated in all the schools, government departments, and in the people. This situation would have had a grievous and painful effect on the Islamic world and the future. The Risale-i Nur, which demonstrates with decisive proofs his true nature, now passing outside our wheels into the hands of those at the top and those most closely connected with him, and those who would be last to give him up, and its being carefully and curiously studied, is such an event that if thousands of people like us were to be sent to prison and even to be executed, it would still be cheap with regard to the religion of Islam. At the very least, it will to a degree save the most obdurate of them from absolute disbelief and apostasy, lead them into doubting disbelief, and moderate their arrogance and insolent aggression. We said to their faces as our final words in court, "Let our heads be sacrificed for a sacred truth which millions of heroic heads have been sacrificed for," and claimed that we shall hold out to the very end. This cause may not be renounced. I hope that there is no one among you who would give it up. Since you have patiently endured it up to now, say, our fates and duties are yet to be fulfilled, and continue to endure it. Certainly, they cannot obstinately oppose the Risale-i Nur in order to defend their way, which is undeniably proved in the fruits to consist of eternal annihilation and everlasting solitary confinement. They will rather seek ways of coming to terms or making a truce. Patience is the key to happiness and joy. In his name be he glorified. My dear, loyal brothers, in the first ray, the allusions to verse, "Can he who was dead, to whom we gave life, and a light whereby he can walk amongst men," makes to both the Risale-i Nur and with the word "dead," with three powerful signs and connections to these unhappy Risale-i Nur students have been elucidated. Now, in the present events, one of those signs is being realized. For, holding up life, civilization, and pleasure, those who oppress us, accuse us of giving no importance to that style of life. They make charges against us, and even want to have us imprisoned with heavy labor or executed. But they can find no legal sanction for this. As for us, we hold up death, the introduction to eternal life, and its veil, and hit them over the heads with it to bring them to their senses, and work with all our strength to save them from true conviction, eternal execution, and everlasting solitary confinement. If I am given the severest penalties, even because of the vehement treatises that were sent to Ankara, but the people who mete out the penalties are saved by the treatises from the execution of death, both my heart and my soul will consent to it. That is to say, we want for them life in both worlds, and this is what we are seeking, but they want us to die, and they are seeking pretexts for this. But we are not defeated before them, because the reality of death and 30,000 human corpses daily display as clearly and visibly as the sun the proclamations and decrees for 30,000 eternal executions and 30,000 solitary confinements for the people of misguidance. Let them do what they want. According to Jifir and abject reckoning, the verse, "It is the fellowship of gods that must triumph," has given us the good news, even in the 12 years of our most bitter defeat, of our victory together with its date. Since the reality is this, we shall from now on say the following, both to the court and to the people. We are trying to be saved from death's eternal execution, which awaits us ever before our eyes, and from the everlasting darkness of the solitary confinement of the grave, which opens its door to us and summons us ineluctably. We are helping you to be saved from that awesome, inevitable calamity. The questions of politics and this world, which in your view are the most momentous, have little value in our view and in that of reality, and are meaningless, unimportant, and worthless for those not directly concerned. Whereas the essential human duties with which we are occupied have a genuine connection with everyone all the time. Anyone who does not like this task of ours and wants to put a stop to it should put a stop to death and shut up the grave. The third and fourth points have not been written for now. In His name be He glorified. It is one of the wonders of the Risale-i Nur that for 10 years Ustad Bediüzzaman has repeatedly said, atheists and apostates don't interfere with the Risale-i Nur. It is a means of repulsing disasters like almsgiving, so attacks on it or its ceasing from activity weakens its defense against disaster. If you molest it, the calamities now waiting in the oven will rain down on you in floods. There are numerous disasters we have witnessed in this connection. Whenever in the past 4 years the Risale-i Nur and its students have been attacked, a disaster or calamity has followed, demonstrating the Risale-i Nur's importance and that it's a means of repulsing disaster. Among the hundreds of events Bediüzzaman predicted through the Risale-i Nur, disasters have put their signatures to their correctness. With the hand of earthquakes, the 4 disasters which followed them showed how that the Risale-i Nur is a means of repulsing calamities. May Almighty God bestow belief on the hearts of those who attack us and the Risale-i Nur, and give them minds and eyes in their heads that will see the truth, and may He save us from these dungeons and them from those disasters. Amin. Hüsrev. In His name be He glorified. My dear loyal brothers, it is a manifestation of dominical grace that while expecting the education minister to erupt and attack us, although he had not seen our defenses, documents, and books, and had only sensed them, and although the highest government departments had studied our most vehement confidential treatises like the Fifth Ray and the addendum to the 6 attacks in order to criticize them and our defenses bold, harsh, and serious blows at absolute disbelief should have led Ankara to act severely against us, they adopted a very lenient and even conciliatory position relative to the importance of the question. One reason for this manifestation of divine grace is this: the Risale-i Nur is being read with care and attention all over the country, which as a result has become a large dersane or place of study, and by all the important departments of government. Yes, such elevated teachings being studied at this time on such a comprehensive and universal scale is certainly a significant instance of divine favor and is a powerful sign that it has diminished absolute disbelief. My brothers, there may be an excuse if some weak family men who have suffered much hardship and loss withdraw a little from the Risale-i Nur and from us, or even give us up, but I say in consequence of the possibility that they may change after having been released. It would be a serious loss for those who have paid this price, material and non-material, for goods of such value and have suffered much torment to forego those goods. And if they suddenly give up the Risale-i Nur and its parts and their attachment to it and stop protecting us and helping and serving us, it would be an unnecessary loss both for them and for us. For this reason, in addition to being cautious, it is necessary not to switch their loyalty, ties, and service. In His name be He glorified. My dear, loyal brothers, it is a manifestation of dominical favor, an instance of divine preservation that, as I have heard, the experts committee in Ankara has been defeated in the face of the Risale-i Nur's truths, and while there are numerous reasons for its criticizing it and objecting to it strongly, it has quite simply supplied the decision for its acquittal. However, the harsh expressions in the confidential treatises and the challenging words in the defenses and the fiery attacks of the education minister and there being two materialist philosophers attached to the Minister of Education on the experts committee and a prominent scholar who supports the new measures, and for the past year a covert atheistic organization has been inciting the People's Party and Minister of Education against us, all led us to expect violent objections and crushing penalties from the experts committee. But then the preservation and grace of the most merciful came to our assistance, and pointing out to them the Risale-i Nur's high station, induced them to forego their violent criticisms. Even with the idea of saving us from being convicted, and so that, because of the Eskişehir affair and famous 31st of March incident, I should not be regarded as having been previously convicted of political crimes, and show that we act solely for religion and belief and have no political aims, they said. Said Nursi has long claimed to be an heir of the Prophet. He adopts the position of a regenerator in serving the Qur'an and belief, that is, he is sometimes overcome by a sort of ecstasy and gets carried away. With this passage and the irreligious expressions of the philosophers, they are saying to those who support religion, whoever they are, he is carrying out this duty, having inherited it from the regenerators of religion. They have used those irreligious philosophical terms in order to both criticize the excessively good opinions of me, of some of our brothers, which are higher than my due, and by calling me an ecstatic, together with my vehemence, to exonerate me from political involvements and being convicted of it, and to flatter to an extent those who object to us and are hostile, and to show that the Qur'anic allusions and wondrous indications of Imam Ali and the truths of Gawsul Azam are all powerful, and to smash the ambition, egotism, and conceit which by comparison with others they reckon is certainly present in me. From beginning to end, the Risale-i Nur furnishes a reply to those words as brilliant as the sun. And since our way is brotherhood and the giving up of egotism, and since we have not made any self-advertising, ecstatic utterances, the new Sayyid's humble life in the time of the Risale-i Nur, and his disregarding the excessively good opinions of him, of his blessed brothers, and moderating them with his instruction, completely refute the implications of those expressions and dismiss them. My dear, loyal brothers, I am not sending you the committee of experts' unanimous decisions for the moment so that no harm comes to those who informed on us. This last experts' committee has evidently done all it can to save us and preserve us from the evil of the people of misguidance and innovation, and has exonerated us from all the charges made against us. They give the feeling that they have grasped truly what the Risale-i Nur teaches, and have unanimously decided that the greater part of its scholarly parts about belief are written knowledgeably, that Said explains his views both sincerely and seriously, and that the power and strength in it are not to contest the government, but only to teach the needed truths of the Qur'an. And they inferred about the confidential treatises, which they call unscholarly. He sometimes goes into ecstasy and suffers emotional disturbance and mental storms, and should not therefore be held responsible. And concerning the terms, the old side and the new side, they said there are two personalities and inferred that in the second are an extraordinary strength of belief and knowledge of the Qur'anic truths, and for the sake of the philosophers said that there is the possibility of a sort of ecstasy and mental disturbance, while to save us from being charged concerning a certain violence of expression and to flatter our opponents, they said, the possibility may be noted of an illness affecting hearing and sight which results in hallucinations. The treatises of the Risale-i Nur, which are superior to other products of the mind, form sufficient answer to the suggestion of this possibility, refuting it totally. They have this in their possession, and the treatises containing the defense speeches and the fruits of belief, which have left all the lawyers in amazement. I offer many thanks that due to this possibility, the illusion of a hadith was imparted to me. Also, the experts committee has completely acquitted all my brothers and myself. Its members said they adhere to Said's scholarly and knowledgeable works for their belief and their lives in the hereafter. We found nothing explicit or implicit in either their correspondence or their books or treatises suggesting any sort of conspiracy against the government. They gave their decision unanimously and put their signatures, philosopher Nejati, scholar Yusuf Ziya, and philosopher Yusuf. It is a subtle coincidence that while for ourselves we call this prison a school of Joseph, Madrasa-i Yusufiya, and the fruits of belief, its fruit, these two other Yusufs have said secretly through their tongues of disposition, we also have shared in the lessons of that school of Joseph. Moreover, their subtle evidence for the possibility of ecstasy and hallucinations are phrases like the 33rd word and the 33rd letter containing 33 windows, and his hearing his cat reciting the divine names, Ya Rahim, O most compassionate one, and his seeing himself as a gravestone. Said Nursi. In his name be he glorified. My dear loyal brothers, since, according to numerous signs, we are under divine protection, and since, in the face of numerous inequitable enemies, the Risale-i Nur has not been defeated and has silenced to a degree the education minister and people's party, and since those who, greatly exaggerating the extent and breadth of our question, have caused alarm to the government, are sure to try to conceal their slander and lies with various trumped up excuses, what we must do is to retain our patience and composure in perfect submission, and particularly not to feel disillusioned and not to despair when sometimes the opposite of what we hoped occurs, and not to be shaken by passing storms. Yes, disillusionment may destroy the moral and enthusiasm of the worldly, but for the Risale-i Nur students who see beneath the hardship, striving, and distress the favors of divine mercy, disillusionment is necessary to strengthen their efforts, their progress, and their seriousness. 40 years ago, the politicians sent me to a lunatic asylum saying I was suffering from a temporary madness. I told them, I consider most of what you call sanity to be insanity. I resign from that sort of sanity. I observe in you the rule, everyone is mad, but their madness differs according to their capacities. Now, with the idea of saving myself and my brothers from serious charges, I repeat the same words to those who ascribe occasional ecstasy or a temporary insanity to me because of the confidential treatise, and I am grateful in two respects. The first, in a sound hadith, it says, the ordinary people deeming, because they are beyond their understanding, the elevated states of one who has attained perfect belief to be madness, point to the perfection of his belief. The second respect, I would agree with complete pride and joy not only to be called mad, but to sacrifice my mind completely and my life for the well-being and salvation of my brothers in this prison, and for them to be delivered from darkness. If you think it suitable, even let someone write a letter of thanks to those 3 persons and tell them that we are allowing them to share in our spiritual gains. My dear, loyal brothers and sincere friends in the service of the Qur'an and belief, and my inseparable companions on the way of truth and reality and the intermediate realm and the hereafter. With the time drawing close for us to part from one another because of the faults and tensions arising from annoyances, the principles of the treatise on sincerity have not been preserved. It is therefore absolutely essential that you wholly forgive each other. You are brothers closer to each other than the most devoted blood brother, and a brother conceals his brother's faults and forgives and forgets. I do not attribute your uncustomary differences and egotism here to your evil commanding souls, and I cannot reconcile it with the Risale-i Nur students. I rather consider it to be a sort of temporary egotism found even in saints who have given up their souls. So, on your part, do not spoil my good opinion through obstinacy and make peace with each other. My brothers, it is understood from the report of the experts committee that the Risale-i Nur defeats all the groups opposing us, for by repeating the decisive proof and the treatise for the elderly and treatise on sincerity, they are attracting attention to them. Moreover, the purpose of their extremely superficial and pseudo-bigoted Hoja-like criticisms, the answers to which are quite plain, and their saying, without grasping which matters are completely unrelated and which are in truth conformable, that there is a contradiction between them, and their unhesitatingly affirming and appreciating 90% of the treatises despite the vehement refutations in the addendum to the 6th attacks of those who have issued the fatwas for the innovations, and the attacks on them is only to justify themselves. Moreover, they are sufficing with pointing out that my saying that persecuted religious Christians who are killed by the enemies of religion may at the end of time be sorts of martyrs is contradictory to the addendum's severe attacks on performing the prayers with uncovered head and making the call to prayer in Turkish makes one feel certain that they have most definitely been defeated by the Risale-i Nur. Said Nursi.